Jungkook suddenly lost control when Jimin brought up Taehyung's name. What happened next shocked the entire Hybe staff. The truth behind the outburst will leave you breathless. Why would you bring him up now, Jimin? Jungkook's voice thundered across the rehearsal room, shattering the silence like glass crashing to the floor. Everyone froze. Sweat dripped from tense faces. Chairs screeched back. The sound engineer dropped his headset. Only Jimin didn't flinch. It was supposed to be a normal choreography run-through. The music had stopped. Staff members were resetting the monitors. Hoseok was tying his shoelaces. Namjoon was whispering with the stage director. But then, like a switch being flipped, the atmosphere ignited. Jimin had just murmured a single name, Taehyung, and Jungkook snapped. His jaw clenched so tightly that the muscles along his neck bulged with fury. His fists were trembling. But more than rage, there was something else in his eyes. Hurt, panic, like a wound had been ripped open in real time. You think this is the moment to talk about him? Jungkook hissed, stepping forward with a fury that sent the assistant managers stumbling to intercept, unsure whether to intervene or just disappear. Jimin didn't move. His expression wasn't cold, but it wasn't soft either. It was filled with something heavier. Regret, determination, or maybe desperation. He texted me last night, Jungkook. I thought you should know. Jungkook blinked like he'd been slapped. Then he laughed, but it wasn't light. It was bitter, sharp, shaking at the edges. I told you, I don't care. The lights above buzzed faintly. Somewhere outside the practice room, someone knocked on a door, but inside, it was pure stillness, except for Jungkook's heaving breaths. I don't care, he repeated, but quieter now, a whisper strangled by emotion. Then why are your hands shaking? Jimin asked. It wasn't a provocation, it was a plea. Everyone was still frozen, as if a bomb had landed but hadn't yet exploded. Taehyung. The name still lingered like a ghost in the room. The silence after it felt like thunder. The three of them hadn't been seen together in months. Rumors had surfaced, fans speculated, staff whispered, and Bang Si-hyuk had instructed the PR team to monitor keywords. But no one really knew why things had fractured the way they had. Until now. Jungkook stepped back, eyes burning. You think just saying his name fixes what happened? His voice cracked. You think I forgot? No, Jimin said, and his voice cracked too. I think you remember too much. Jungkook turned away suddenly and slammed his fist into the wall. The room flinched. The impact left a dent in the plaster. One of the junior staff members gasped and dropped her clipboard. She wasn't the only one trembling now. Behind them, Yoongi slowly stepped forward, his tone quiet. Not here, guys. Not like this. But Jungkook didn't seem to hear. Or maybe he didn't care. His breathing was ragged. He looked like a man dragged back into a memory he swore he'd buried. Jimin's eyes softened. I know what happened in Busan. Don't, Jungkook snapped, whirling around so fast that even Namjoon took a step forward instinctively. You weren't there, Jungkook continued. You left before it fell apart. He and we. The words vanished in his throat. He shook his head like he could shake the thoughts loose. But they clung to him, leaching through every inch of his frame. Jimin took a breath. You've been carrying it alone. Jungkook didn't answer, but his hands, once curled into fists, were slowly unclenching. The room began to breathe again, cautiously. Managers exchanged glances. Hoseok stood beside the speaker system, one finger hovering over the power button, unsure if rehearsal would even resume. No one knew what to say. Then, Jungkook walked past Jimin without a word and exited the practice room. The door slammed shut behind him. A second later, the echo hit, and everyone just stood there. Jimin exhaled, his eyes glossy. He still hasn't forgiven himself. The hallway outside the rehearsal room was dim, the fluorescent lights flickering above Jungkook like they couldn't decide whether to stay alive or burn out. His footsteps echoed, fast and erratic, against the cold Hybe floors as he passed one staff office after another. His breath caught in his chest. His jaw clenched so hard it ached. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he had to get out of there before he said something that couldn't be unsaid. Behind him, the door stayed shut. He could still hear Jimin's voice ringing in his ears. He texted me last night. He hadn't seen Taehyung's name in months. Not on their group chat. Not on their schedules. Not on any monitor or camera footage they'd reviewed. It was like he'd been erased. Like Taehyung had erased himself. Until now. Jungkook pushed open the rooftop door with force and stumbled into the freezing air, letting the chill slap him across the face. It was mid-November in Seoul. the kind of wind that clawed into your bones and dared you to fight back. But he welcomed it, needed it. He leaned against the railings and stared out at the city, a million windows blinking back at him. So many people, so many stories. But his had been burned black since that night in Busan. Get it together, he muttered to himself. But his hands still shook. Behind him, the door creaked. He didn't need to look, he knew it was Jimin. You shouldn't have followed me, Jungkook said without turning around. Jimin didn't answer immediately, just stood near the doorway, arms crossed, breathing steady despite the cold. You think I could just let you walk away after that? Jungkook's shoulders tensed. You crossed a line. You crossed it first, Jungkook, back in February. Don't act like I'm the villain here. Jungkook turned around sharply. You don't get to use that night against me. I'm not, Jimin said, voice raw. I'm trying to get you to finally talk about it. You weren't there, Jungkook shouted. You left that morning. You weren't there when he stopped himself, breathing ragged, eyes flaring like live wires. You weren't there when he looked me in the eye and said he didn't trust me anymore. Jimin's face went pale. You never told me that. Because I didn't want to break you, Jungkook snapped. Because I knew you'd blame yourself. But let's not pretend like your hands are clean. That stung. Jimin flinched. Fine, he said quietly. Then let's stop pretending. He stepped closer, face tight with emotion. Do you want to know why Taehyung texted me last night? No, Jungkook replied too quickly. He said he was ready to talk, that he was sorry. Jungkook looked like he'd been punched. Why didn't he text me? Maybe because he knew you wouldn't read it, Jimin said. Maybe because the last time you saw him, you nearly hit him. Oi! The silence that followed was deafening. Even the wind seemed to back away. Jungkook swallowed hard. I didn't. I would never. But you wanted to, Jimin said. And he felt it. Jungkook turned away again, leaning both hands on the edge of the roof, his back rising and falling like a man trying to breathe underwater. You think I'm proud of any of that? You think I sleep at night? I think you've been carrying too much for too long, Jimin said. We all have, but you especially. Jungkook was silent. Then he said, softer. Do you know what it feels like to lose your best friend and still see his face in every memory that used to make you happy? Jimin closed his eyes, fighting the sting. You and I, we started together. But he and I, we grew together, Jungkook said. He was there when I cried after the Japan tour. He covered for me when I overslept for 2 days straight. He sat with me when my grandma died. He knew me. Then talk to him, Jimin whispered. Not to me, to him. I can't, Jungkook said. Because if I do, I'll have to hear the truth, and I'm not sure I can survive it. The door burst open again, interrupting the heavy moment. It was Namjoon, breathing heavily. Yoongi said to check on you both. The staff is shaken. Bang PD is already asking questions. Jimin nodded. We'll handle it. Namjoon looked between the two of them. You both need to remember you're not just idols, you're brothers. And brothers fight. But this is war. Jungkook didn't say anything as Namjoon left. After a long pause, Jimin said, the only reason I said Taehyung's name today was because he asked me to. Jungkook finally turned. You said he wanted to talk? Jimin nodded. He's in Seoul, at the same apartment. Jungkook stared at him. His voice was barely a whisper. He came back? Jimin's eyes softened. He never left. And for the first time since the fight, Jungkook looked like something inside him cracked. He slumped against the railing and slid to the floor, burying his face in his hands. Jimin crouched down beside him. He's waiting, he said gently. I don't know if I'm ready, Jungkook murmured. You never will be, Jimin replied. But go anyway. And beneath the burning lights of Seoul, the wounds of a broken friendship began to stir. Not healed, not forgiven, but no longer ignored. The war might not be over. But maybe, just maybe, the silence finally was. The sky over Seoul bled gray as Jungkook stood before a door he swore never to approach again. Apartment 15B. Taehyung's place. His fingers hovered just inches from the intercom button, but his hand refused to move. He heard nothing from the other side. No footsteps, no rustling, just silence. A cold, sobering silence that felt louder than any scream. He almost turned back. Almost, but then he remembered Jimin's words from the night before. He never left. And with a trembling exhale, Jungkook pressed the buzzer. Seconds passed. Then the intercom clicked. Jungkook expected words. A sigh, a cough, anything. But all he got was the mechanical click of the door unlocking. That was enough. He stepped inside. The elevator felt like a coffin. His reflection in the mirrored walls stared back at him, unkempt hair, hollow eyes, tense jaw. A face molded by weeks of anger, months of regret, and years of pressure. Every floor dinged like a countdown to disaster. When the doors opened, he stood face to face with a hallway that smelled like eucalyptus and rain. The scent hadn't changed. Neither had the painting outside Taehyung's door, a half-finished abstract canvas they used to joke about. He knocked once, twice. The door opened on the third knock. Taehyung stood in the doorway, barefoot, dressed in a loose dark shirt and gray sweatpants. His hair was longer than Jungkook remembered, tied loosely behind his ears. His eyes were swollen, maybe from sleep, maybe from tears. Neither of them said anything, until Jungkook finally breathed. "Hi." Taehyung didn't respond with words. He just opened the door wider and stepped aside. Jungkook walked in slowly, absorbing every detail. The couch was still the same. The vinyl player was still beside the bookshelf. On the coffee table, 2 untouched mugs of tea, as if Taehyung had been expecting someone. Or no one. "You still drink chamomile?" Jungkook asked. Taehyung nodded. "Helps me sleep. Most nights." "And the other cup?" Taehyung shrugged. "Habit." Jungkook sat, unsure of what to do with his hands. "You got my message?" "No," Taehyung replied, sitting across from him. "I got Jimin's." "Of course." "So," Taehyung said quietly, "why are you here?" "Because I'm tired of pretending I'm not haunted by you," Jungkook answered. Taehyung blinked. "That night in Busan," Jungkook continued, "I said things I didn't mean. You did too. You said I betrayed you," Taehyung said, voice flat. "You said I only cared about fame. You said I was deadweight." Jungkook winced. "I remember. And I said," Taehyung added, his voice lower now, "that I regretted meeting you." The words lingered between them like smoke. Jungkook leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Do you?" Taehyung didn't answer right away. "I thought I did. But I think what I regretted was becoming someone I didn't recognize when I was around you." Jungkook's brows furrowed. "What does that mean?" Taehyung looked up, and for the first time in months, Jungkook saw the ache behind his calm. "We stopped being teammates. We became competitors. Every comment, every look, every stage felt like a battle. You'd get praise, I'd get silence. You'd win awards, I'd get asked about your tattoos." Jungkook was stunned. "And it's not your fault," Taehyung said, "but it felt like it was." "I didn't know. You didn't want to know." The sting of those words hit deep. Jungkook's voice cracked. "I thought we were brothers." "We were, that's what made it worse." Taehyung stood and walked to the window. The city stretched far beneath them, cars glowing like fireflies, the skyline humming with life. "I lost myself," Taehyung said. "And you were too busy shining to notice me fading." Jungkook stood too. "You should have told me." "I tried," Taehyung shouted, whipping around. "I tried when I skipped rehearsals. I tried when I bailed on group dinners. I tried when I posted songs with lyrics begging someone to ask me if I was okay." "You think I didn't see those?" Jungkook snapped. "You think I didn't lie awake at night wondering what I'd done? But every time I asked, you said I'm fine. Because I didn't want your pity." Jungkook stepped closer. "Then what the hell did you want from me, Tae?" "I wanted you to hurt, Jungkook. Just once. I wanted you to feel like you weren't perfect, like you weren't untouchable." That confession gutted the air between them. Jungkook whispered, "You wanted me to fall." Taehyung closed his eyes. "I wanted you to see what it felt like to be ignored." Jungkook laughed bitterly. "You think I've never felt invisible? You think I don't wake up some mornings wishing I could disappear for just a second and not have the world breathing down my neck?" Taehyung opened his eyes, surprised. "You want to talk about pressure? About comparison?" Jungkook continued. "I was 16 when they called me the golden maknae. You know what that does to a teenager? I couldn't fail. Not once. Because if I did, I'd prove them right, the ones who said I was just a pretty face with no soul." His voice broke. "And every time I saw you retreat, I blamed myself. Every time you avoided me, I thought I'd lost the only person who didn't see me as a product." Taehyung stepped back, guilt washing over him. "I didn't know," he said softly. Jungkook nodded. "Neither did I, until it was too late." A long silence passed. Then Taehyung asked, "So what do we do now?" Jungkook looked at him, eyes glistening. "We stop lying," he said. "We start from the truth." "And what's the truth?" Jungkook stepped forward, closing the final distance. "That I was scared of losing you, so I pushed you away before you could walk out." Taehyung's breath caught. And I hated you, Jungkook added. Not because you deserved it, but because I saw parts of myself in you that I couldn't face. Taehyung reached out, hand trembling. And I envied you, for being brave enough to shine when I felt like fading. They stood like that, wounds exposed, hearts trembling. Then, without warning, Taehyung pulled Jungkook into a hug. Tight, desperate, forgiving. Jungkook clung to him like a man drowning, finally breaking the surface. Neither spoke, because there was nothing left to say. Not right now, just this moment, just the beginning, of healing, of honesty, of brotherhood reborn. Outside, the city moved on, unaware. But in that apartment, two broken voices finally found the courage to speak again. And maybe, just maybe, to sing again, together, forever. You hugged him? Namjoon's voice was tight, disbelieving, as he paced back and forth in the corner of the private meeting room on the third floor of the Hybe building. He stopped walking and looked directly at Jungkook, who was sitting on the edge of the conference table, arms crossed, gaze unreadable. Yeah, Jungkook replied after a long beat. I hugged him. The silence that followed was almost theatrical. Yoongi exhaled loudly and leaned forward from his chair. Okay, let me get this straight. After weeks of refusing to even say his name, you suddenly show up at his apartment and decide it's hug time? Jungkook didn't flinch. It wasn't sudden. It was overdue. Overdue? Namjoon scoffed. You threw a mic at a mirror 2 weeks ago just because someone mentioned Busan in a lyric note. And now you're playing peace ambassador? I'm not playing anything, Jungkook said, voice low and firm. You weren't there. You didn't see him. Then tell us, Jimin said quietly, sitting near the window, his face calm but his fingers tightly gripped around his coffee cup. Tell them what really happened. Jungkook hesitated. Then, slowly, he spoke. We talked. We said things we should have said months ago. Years, maybe. He told me he envied me, that he hated the pressure of being compared to me. I told him I felt trapped by everyone's expectations. We were angry. We were scared. But we weren't done. So you think one hug fixes all that? Yoongi asked, leaning back with a skeptical look. No, Jungkook said. But it was a start. The door creaked open before anyone could respond. Everyone turned. It was Bang Si-hyuk. He entered the room without a word, eyes scanning every face before locking on Jungkook. No greetings, no fake smiles. Just an immediate, bone-cutting silence. Namjoon stood up instinctively. Sir. Sit, Bang said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority so sharp it silenced the room in seconds. He walked to the center of the table, placed both palms on the wood, and looked at Jungkook like he was dissecting him. Do you want to explain what you're doing? He asked. Or should I ask dispatch instead? Jungkook frowned. What are you talking about? Bang turned his tablet around. On the screen was a photo, a blurry image clearly taken through a window from the alley across Taehyung's apartment. The picture showed two silhouettes in an embrace. Jungkook felt the blood drain from his face. Don't act surprised, Bang said. You know how this works. Cameras are everywhere. Your faces sell headlines, Jungkook. Especially now. Jimin stood. That could be anyone. It's not, Bang said, never taking his eyes off Jungkook. And you know it. Yoongi muttered under his breath. Damn vultures. Namjoon rubbed his forehead. Okay, let's not spiral. What are the damages? Bang turned to him slowly. The damage is you being out of control of your own narrative. Again. First the rehearsal outburst. Then the rooftop confrontation. Now this. He looked at Jungkook again. You didn't think, did you? You let your emotions dictate your moves. You let guilt and sentimentality walk you into a landmine. Jungkook finally stood. So what? I'm not allowed to fix what's broken unless it fits the media strategy. This isn't about control, Bang snapped. It's about timing, about optics. You've been unstable for weeks, and now you're rekindling old flames on rooftops and apartments like nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened? Jungkook's voice raised. He was my brother, and I lost him because I listened to everyone but myself. Bang's voice rose to match. You lost him because you crossed boundaries. You let resentment turn you against each other and pretended it was professionalism. Jungkook's fists clenched. No, I lost him because we were both drowning, and no one cared as long as the stage stayed lit. The room fell silent. Bang's eyes narrowed. You think I didn't care? Jungkook didn't answer. I built this from nothing, Bang said, stepping closer. I gave you all a future, and you think I wouldn't protect you? You protected the group, Jungkook said. not the people in it. Jimin stepped between them before it could go any further. Stop, please. Bang looked at Jimin. He's not thinking clearly. I think he is, Jimin said. For the first time in months. Bang turned back to Jungkook. You want to save your friendship? Fine. But don't forget, this industry will eat you alive for looking weak. I'd rather be weak, Jungkook said, than be empty. Yoongi's eyes darted between them, muttering, this is going to be a damn headline by tonight. Bang sighed. He straightened his posture and fixed his blazer. Then you better prepare your apology draft. No, Jungkook said. I'm not apologizing. Bang froze. Jungkook continued. Not for hugging someone I love. Not for speaking the truth. Not this time. Oh. Bang said nothing. He simply stared, then turned and walked out. The door shut behind him with an echo that lingered in the room. Namjoon sighed. Well, that went better than expected. Yoongi smirked. You have very low expectations. Jimin finally exhaled. So, now what? Jungkook looked at them all. Now, we decide if we're going to keep pretending we're fine or if we're finally going to be real. Yoongi leaned back. Real gets you cancelled. Jungkook nodded. But fake got us here. Namjoon raised a brow. And here is? Jungkook looked at the door Bang Si-hyuk had walked through. On the edge of something, he said. And I'd rather jump than keep dying slowly. A pause. Then, unexpectedly, Yoongi stood up. Fine, Jimin blinked. What? If we're doing this, Yoongi said, walking to the window. Then we're doing it loud, messy, real. Namjoon looked unconvinced. You think we should go public? Yoongi shrugged. Why not? They've speculated for a year. Let them hear it from us for once. Jimin's jaw dropped slightly. Are you serious? Yoongi looked back. We've been bleeding in silence long enough. Jungkook met his gaze. And for the first time in what felt like forever, he didn't feel alone. The tension hadn't lifted. The controversies weren't over. But maybe the silence was. And that was the most dangerous thing they could do. Tell the truth. Together. The elevator ride to the main floor was suffocating. Each floor number lit up like a countdown to chaos. Jungkook stood in the corner, arms crossed tightly over his chest, while Jimin leaned against the opposite wall, staring at the changing numbers, like they were going to rearrange the reality waiting for them downstairs. We need to be ready, Jimin murmured, his voice barely audible over the mechanical hum. Dispatch already posted the photo. Hashtags are climbing. Taehyung's name is trending in 4 languages. I don't care, Jungkook said sharply, then corrected himself. I care, but not the way they want me to. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. A wave of controlled chaos hit them instantly. PR managers darted past, phones glued to their ears. Staff assistants carried stacks of printed articles. Security stood tense by the glass doors. And at the center of it all, Bang Si-hyuk was speaking to someone over the phone in rapid, clipped Korean, his expression unreadable but his stance rigid. As soon as he spotted them, he ended the call. You're trending globally, he said without preamble. Taehyung too. The photo reached Japanese and Indonesian outlets in under an hour. One Chinese site is already pushing an article saying you're secretly dating again. Jungkook tilted his head, expression hard. Let them. Bang's jaw twitched. You don't understand. This affects stock, sponsorship, album timelines, streaming deals. We've spent months preparing this comeback. This is the comeback, Jimin said suddenly. Just not the one you planned. The silence that followed was thick with tension. Bang narrowed his eyes. You think being impulsive makes you brave? Jungkook stepped forward. I think pretending we're okay when we're bleeding makes us liars. You want to be honest? Bang asked. You think that's what fans want? You think they want to hear that you fought, that you broke each other, that there's mistrust and trauma behind the choreography? Jimin answered, his voice sharp and unflinching. Yes, because they already know. They just want us to stop treating them like they're blind. Bang didn't respond. His silence was more dangerous than his yelling. Yoongi entered the room next, throwing his jacket onto the nearest chair. We've got an even bigger problem. Someone leaked the raw voice memos. Everyone turned. What memos? Jungkook asked, his voice suddenly cold. Yoongi pulled out his phone and hit play. A low-quality recording began to play a private voice note Taehyung had sent months ago. His voice, quiet and broken, echoed through the room. I don't trust him anymore. I want to leave, but I don't know how to walk away from something that was supposed to be family. The audio ended. Jungkook looked like he'd been stabbed. Yoongi locked his phone. Twitter's eating it up. Half the fans think it's you. The other half blame Hybe. Jimin's hands were shaking. Who leaked it? Yoongi shook his head. Don't know. Could have been a hacker. Could have been someone inside. But it's out there now. Bang turned to Jungkook, voice dangerously quiet. Do you see what I'm talking about now? Jungkook didn't back down. That was real. That was him hurting. And we ignored it. You think fans will embrace your humanity? Bang asked. Some will, but others will tear you apart for it. You'll be called toxic, selfish, fake. You'll be picked apart until there's nothing left but a tabloid headline. I'd rather be hated for being honest, Jungkook said, than loved for being perfect. Bang didn't respond. He stared at Jungkook, then turned to Yoongi. Find out who leaked the memo. I want names by morning. Yoongi nodded and left the room. Bang looked back at Jungkook. Fine. You want honesty? You've got 12 hours to write a statement. No PR spin. No filters. You say what you need to say, then you deal with what comes next. He walked out without another word. Jimin sat down slowly, pressing his hands against his face. 12 hours. Jungkook stared at nothing for a long time. Then he whispered, I know what I'm going to say. Namjoon entered just as the words left his mouth. You sure you want to do this? He asked. It won't be clean. It's not supposed to be clean, Jungkook replied. We're not clean. Namjoon folded his arms. The label will want to vet it. I won't let them, Jungkook said. Namjoon raised a brow. Then you better start writing it now before they come for your account. I already did, Jungkook replied. Everyone looked at him. Jungkook pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. Then he read aloud. There's something I haven't said. And maybe it's time I stop protecting an image that no longer reflects who I am. I hurt someone I loved. I was silent when I should have listened. I let pride silence my grief. That voice memo? It's real. And it's painful. But I deserve to feel every second of that pain. Because I failed someone who trusted me. We were brothers once. Maybe we still are. And if this costs me your love, I understand. But I won't lie anymore. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. But I miss him. And I hope he reads this. By the time he finished, the room was silent. Jimin wiped his eyes. Post it. Namjoon hesitated. You're really ready for this? No, Jungkook said. But that's not the point. He hit publish. And for a second, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. Notifications burst in. Mentions climbed. Instagram DMs flooded. Trending topics reshuffled. Comment sections ignited like wildfires. Some praised the vulnerability. Some accused him of manipulating sympathy. Some demanded Taehyung speak. Some told Jungkook he was brave. Others told him he was over. But through it all, one DM slid in quietly. From Taehyung. Just one sentence. You didn't have to do that for me, but you did. I'm here. Jungkook stared at the screen for a long time. Then he typed back. It was never just about you. It was about us. And maybe it's time we come back together, not for a show, not for the label, but for the people we used to be, and maybe still are. No reply came immediately. But that night, Taehyung posted a photo of the sky. No caption, just two hands reaching toward each other in silhouette. Armies went wild. But for once, Jungkook didn't care about the chaos. Because sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. A post, a message, a truth. And finally, the beginning of something real. The sunlight that poured into the practice studio was indifferent to the storm that had unraveled overnight. Jungkook stood in the center of the room, arms crossed over his chest, staring at the mirrored wall without seeing his reflection. Behind him, the murmur of hurried footsteps and whispered conversations vibrated through the building. News outlets had picked up his post. Armies had translated it into 21 languages in less than 4 hours. His name trended globally, again. But this time, it wasn't for a dance move or a vocal run. This time, it was for bleeding publicly. The door opened. Jungkook didn't turn. He didn't need to. I thought you'd be at home, Jimin said, stepping in quietly. I couldn't sleep, Jungkook replied. Came here before the noise caught up to me. Jimin dropped his bag onto the couch and looked at him. It already has. They're ripping your statement apart. Some say it was brave. Some say it was calculated. Some say you only said it to save face. I didn't say it for them, Jungkook answered. Jimin walked over and stood beside him. Then who was it for? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. His voice, when it came, was hollow. For the version of me that stopped speaking years ago. Jimin swallowed, his throat tight. I've never seen you that vulnerable in public. I've never been that vulnerable in public. You should have been. Jungkook finally looked at him. It's terrifying. I know, Jimin whispered, but it's also honest. They stood in silence for a while, the faint echo of rehearsal rooms filling the gaps. Then the door opened again, more forcefully this time. Yoongi entered, visibly annoyed, holding his phone out. You need to see this, he said without a greeting. Jungkook took the phone. It was a video, a screen grab of a live stream replay. Taehyung. He was sitting in what looked like his living room, a guitar resting beside him, his eyes red but dry. This will probably be taken down, Taehyung said in the video. But I just want to say, I saw the post, and I didn't expect him to say those things. Not now, not so soon, but I'm glad he did. He paused, his voice cracked. I kept waiting for the right time, the right moment. But it never came, and part of me was scared that if I reached out, I'd be met with silence, or worse, anger. Another pause. So, thank you, Jungkook, for breaking the silence before it killed us. The video cut out. Jungkook didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Is this real? He asked. Yoongi nodded. He posted it, deleted it 2 minutes later. But the internet never forgets. Jimin pulled the phone from Jungkook's hand and replayed the clip, eyes fixed on the screen like it was a ghost. Jungkook rubbed his face with both hands, overwhelmed. It's not over, is it? No, Jimin said. It's just beginning. The studio door opened again. This time it was Bang Si-hyuk. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood 2 legal advisors and the head of public relations. Jungkook turned around, his body tense. We need to talk, Bang said. Everyone else in the room instinctively moved to the side. We're getting demands from investors, Bang began. Questions from sponsors. Some are threatening to pull out. You want the truth? Here's the truth. Your emotional honesty is costing us millions. Jungkook stood still. I expected that. Did you also expect a request from the Japanese label to pause your solo promotions? They say your image is now unstable. Let them pause it. Bang's eyes narrowed. This isn't just about you. I know that, Jungkook said calmly, but I won't perform with a smile that lies. Jimin took a cautious step forward. What if we reframed it? Bang looked at him. Reframed what? The whole situation, Jimin said. What if we stop trying to bury it? What if we acknowledge the cracks and use them to show we're human? You think that sells? The PR lead asked. It's already selling, Yoongi said. Check the numbers. The engagement is double what we usually get on a statement. And Taehyung's deleted video? It has over 30 million views. Fans want the truth, even if it's ugly. Bang crossed his arms. And what if the board disagrees? Jungkook stepped forward. Then they can release me. The room dropped into silence. Bang stared at him. You don't mean that. I do, Jungkook said. I love this team. I love what we built, but I won't live in a world where I can't be a real person. The legal advisors whispered among themselves. The PR head shifted uncomfortably. Bang took a long breath. So what do you want to do? Jungkook looked around the room. I want us to talk. All of us. Taehyung, me, Jimin, Namjoon, Yoongi, Jin, Hobi. On camera. No scripts. No edits. You want a documentary? Bang asked, stunned. I want a confession, Jungkook said. Yoongi raised an eyebrow. You sure you can handle that? No, Jungkook said. But I'm ready to try. Bang didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, you better get everyone on board. If one of them says no, the whole thing's off. Jungkook nodded. I'll handle it. Bang turned and walked out, but not before muttering, you better pray this doesn't backfire. When the door closed, Jimin exhaled shakily. Are we seriously doing this? We are, Jungkook said. No more pretending. Yoongi walked to the corner and sat down. Then start writing. If we're going to tell the truth, we better tell all of it. Jungkook nodded. Everything. Even the part where I stopped recognizing myself. Jimin looked at him, his voice raw. Do you think Taehyung will agree? Jungkook thought for a long moment. Then he whispered, I think he's been waiting to be asked. And for the first time in years, they began preparing not for a stage, but for a reckoning, a reclamation, not of fame, not of fans, but of each other, of the truth, and maybe, just maybe, of peace. The room was stark, all white walls, no decorations, no branding, no cameras yet, just 8 chairs in a circle in the middle of a soundproofed room on the high basement floor. built for closed-door negotiations and internal crisis meetings, never for something like this. Jungkook stood at the far end of the room, eyes on the empty chairs. His fingers tapped nervously against his thigh. He hadn't slept, not properly. His hands trembled, not from fear of what the public might think, but from the weight of seeing Taehyung walk through that door again, this time with all 6 others watching. The door creaked open. Namjoon stepped in first, dressed in all black, jaw set. Security cleared the floor. No one else gets in or out unless it's one of us. Behind him, Yoongi followed, earbuds hanging from his collar. I hope you understand what you've started, he muttered to Jungkook. I do, Jungkook replied. But I don't know how it's going to end. Exactly, Yoongi said, taking the seat farthest from the door. And that's what makes it real. Hoseok came next, unusually silent, no dance energy in his stride. He gave Jungkook a small nod, one that said, I'm watching, I'm here, but don't waste this. Then Jin entered, closing the door behind him with a sigh. We doing group therapy now? He asked, voice half joking but face deadly serious. Great. Where's the wine? No one laughed. Jungkook took a deep breath. 5 were here. The air was heavy with history. The second door opened. Taehyung walked in, slowly, his expression unreadable. He didn't look at anyone right away, not even Jungkook. And last, Jimin, quiet as always, but somehow the loudest in the room emotionally. His presence wrapped around them like tension wrapped around breath. They all Saturday. A pause. No one spoke. Then Namjoon, ever the leader, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I want this to be clear. There's no PR team here. No cameras yet. This is just us. Whatever we say here, it doesn't leave this room unless we agree. The silence held. Taehyung nodded first. Fine by me, he said softly. Jin crossed his arms. Then someone better start talking, or we're going to sit here in awkward silence for 4 hours. Jungkook cleared his throat. I'll start, he said, standing even though no one asked him to. When we began this group, I was 15. I followed you all around like a lost puppy. I wanted to be like each of you, and I remember watching Taehyung in the corner during rehearsals, mouthing every lyric even when it wasn't his part. I thought, he's so strange, but I want to know why. Taehyung finally looked up. Their eyes met. Not a war, not peace, something in between. I hurt you, Jungkook continued. More than once. I made you feel invisible when you were already drowning, and I let my silence kill our bond. He looked around. I let pride get in the way of brotherhood, and now, the world knows it. Yoongi exhaled. We all did, in some way. Taehyung shifted in his seat. You didn't just let silence kill it, Jungkook. You made me feel like I was disposable, like the group could function without me, like I was the extra. You were never extra, Jimin said suddenly, voice breaking. Never. If anything, I was the one who pulled away. No, Taehyung said. You tried, you texted, you called. I ignored you. Hoseok leaned forward. Why? Taehyung answered without hesitation. Because if I responded, I would have said things I couldn't take back. You already did, Jungkook whispered. Everyone fell quiet. Taehyung stared at him. Then why did you come back? Because I missed you. A long pause. Is that all? Taehyung asked, voice low. No, Jungkook said. Because I hated who I became without you, and because I couldn't stand seeing the group smile with a Taehyung-shaped hole in it. Taehyung's lip trembled, but he forced a breath through his nose. Yoongi rubbed his temples. So what now? We air our dirty laundry in a docu-series, and hope the world forgives us? No, Namjoon said. We don't ask for forgiveness. We offer truth. People can do what they want with it. Jin leaned back. And what if they turn on us? Then at least we go down honest, Jungkook said. Taehyung's eyes softened. Do you remember Busan? Every day, Jungkook replied. I was going to leave the group, Taehyung said. You remember that? I do. And you stopped me, Taehyung said, voice trembling now. But not because you cared. You said, you're not allowed to quit before me. The room froze. Jimin covered his mouth. Jungkook closed his eyes. I thought you meant it as a joke, Jungkook whispered. Taehyung's voice cracked. I didn't. I was scared, Jungkook said. If you left, I didn't know who I'd be without you here. You were the only one who knew how much of me was performance. Taehyung stood. So say it now, he said, tears building in his eyes. Say it without the cameras. Say it with all of them watching. Jungkook stood too. I'm sorry. For what? For treating you like a rival when you were my brother. For silencing you. For pretending I didn't see the pain. For standing in the spotlight while you screamed in the dark. Taehyung wiped his cheek, but the tears kept coming. I wanted to hate you, he said. I wanted to erase you, but I couldn't, because I remembered the way you cried when your dog died. The way you made us laugh during the darkest days of tour. I remembered the real you. Jungkook stepped forward. Then let's bring that back. Taehyung nodded slowly. The room didn't clap. There were no dramatic music cues, no triumphant lines, just heavy breathing, shaking hands, and Jimin crying softly in his chair whispering, "Finally." Namjoon leaned back, voice quiet. "We record tomorrow. One room, one take, no edits. Just the 7 of us and the truth." Yoongi nodded. "We're calling it the reunion room." Hoseok added, "Not for the fans, for us." Jin looked around. "And if it breaks us, then at least we go down together," Jungkook said. And with that, the 7 chairs no longer felt like islands. They were pieces of a circle finally being rebuilt. Not to be perfect, but to be whole. The camera light turned red. Recording. No introduction, no countdown, no music. Just a wide-angle shot of 7 chairs arranged in a circle, raw and sterile, under unflattering overhead lights. No makeup, no stylists, no handlers. The only thing scripted was the silence that stretched before the first word was spoken. Jungkook's leg bounced up and down. Namjoon had his fingers steepled in front of his mouth. Jimin sat with his arms folded, a thin sweat forming on his forehead. Jin looked more tense than he had during any concert. Yoongi tapped his fingers against his thigh. Hoseok stared at the floor, refusing eye contact with the lens. Taehyung sat still, hands clenched, eyes distant but burning with something close to rage or grief. "We're live," Namjoon finally said, breaking the tension. Not metaphorically. They were streaming the whole thing, unfiltered, to their official platform. It wasn't just a confession. It was a crucifixion. Namjoon turned to the camera. "This is us. No edits. No second takes. Just the truth." He looked around the circle. "Who wants to begin?" Jungkook swallowed. "I will." The air tensed. "I'll start with the lie," he said, "because there were so many truths we buried beneath it." He looked straight at the lens. "We told you we were fine, that everything was okay behind the scenes, that we were family, and for a while, we were. But then, things started to crack." He paused, then continued. "I didn't know how to say I was hurting. I didn't know how to admit that I felt compared to everyone all the time, even the people I loved most, especially Taehyung." Taehyung's jaw clenched slightly, but he said nothing. "I wanted to protect our image more than I wanted to protect our friendship, so when he drifted away, I let him, and I told myself it was his fault." "I thought it was my fault," Taehyung interrupted suddenly, his voice steady but sharp. "I started to believe I was the problem, that, maybe, if I disappeared, the team would function better." "You were the glue," Hoseok said softly. "And when you went silent, we all cracked." Jimin turned to Taehyung. "I tried calling you. You never answered. Because every time I picked up the phone," Taehyung said, "I thought, they're only checking in because they're supposed to, not because they want to." "That's not true," Jin said, voice low. "But it felt true," Taehyung replied, locking eyes with Jin. "It felt like I was background noise to the noise machine we'd become." Yoongi took a deep breath. "You know the scariest thing about being in this group? It's not the schedule, it's not the expectations, it's the fear that if you ever fall behind emotionally, the train won't stop for you." Namjoon nodded solemnly. "Because we're trained not to pause, not to process, just to smile, move, deliver." Jungkook looked back at Taehyung. "The night in Busan, I didn't hit you, but I wanted to, and I hated myself for it." Taehyung's lips trembled. "You said I made you weak." "I was projecting," Jungkook admitted. "You reminded me of all the feelings I wasn't allowed to show." "I was showing them," Taehyung said, voice rising. "Crying in the green room, shaking before performances, hyperventilating in hotel bathtubs, and no one said anything." "I saw you," Jimin said. "I just didn't know what to do." "You all saw me," Taehyung said. "And you did nothing." The words landed like punches. Hoseok whispered, "I was afraid that if I acknowledged it, it would break everything." "You were already breaking," Taehyung snapped. Yoongi closed his eyes. "I wish I'd pulled you aside. I wish I'd said something. Anything." Namjoon looked into the camera again. "We thought protecting the group meant ignoring the wounds. but you can't build on top of cracks. Jungkook nodded slowly. So we faked it. Interviews, concerts, award shows. We smiled through bruises, and the silence became louder than the screams ever could be. Jin cleared his throat. You want to know the moment I knew we were in trouble? It wasn't the fights. It was the silence at dinner. We used to laugh, and then suddenly we'd sit in the same room and say nothing. Just scroll our phones, eating like strangers. Jimin wiped his eye. And the fans saw it. They always knew. They just didn't know how bad it got. Yoongi added, they saw it in the pauses between our words, in the stiffness in our hugs, in the way we looked away instead of toward each other. Taehyung looked at Jungkook. Do you regret what you said? Every day, Jungkook replied. Then say it again. But this time, mean it. Jungkook stood. He didn't need to prepare the words. Kim Taehyung, I'm sorry. For turning my back on you. For not being strong enough to say I miss you before the silence killed us. For resenting your sadness instead of holding space for it. For letting ego win over empathy. Taehyung's eyes glistened. Do you forgive me? Jungkook asked. Taehyung stood too. I'm trying. And maybe today, I start. They embraced. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but raw. Shaking, gripping each other like something fragile they'd nearly destroyed. Jimin turned to the camera. This isn't a comeback, he said. This is a recovery. Hoseok added. We're not doing this for streams, or charts, or clout. We're doing this because we almost lost each other. Yoongi said, this is the price of silence, and we're done paying it. Jin nodded. You can judge us. You can cancel us. But don't say we lied to you anymore. Namjoon concluded, we're broken, but we're trying. And if you're still with us after this, maybe we can find our way back to music that actually means something. The red light on the camera flicked off. No one moved for a moment. Then Jungkook whispered, we did it. No, Taehyung said. We started. And in that cold, quiet room, with the raw ache of exposed wounds still settling into the air, they walked out together. Not as perfect idols, but as something more powerful, as people who refused to keep pretending. The day after the live stream was eerily quiet. Too quiet. Jungkook woke to his phone buzzing violently on the nightstand, screen glowing with unread messages, missed calls, and push alerts. Headlines, screenshots, fan compilations, reaction threads. But what caught his attention was a single message in their private group chat from Jin. We need to meet. Now. Something's coming. No emoji. No punctuation. Just tension. Jungkook was out the door in 10 minutes, throwing on a black hoodie and sunglasses, barely tying his laces before running into the cold. As he reached the underground parking entrance of Hybe, he spotted Namjoon and Yoongi already there, both looking grim. Namjoon didn't waste time. The live stream shook up more than we thought. I saw the numbers, Jungkook said. It hit 25 million in the first 4 hours. That's not what I mean, Namjoon muttered. I mean internal. Yoongi lit a cigarette with shaking hands. He never smoked unless something was really wrong. There's pushback? Jungkook asked. Yoongi exhaled. Some senior Hybe execs are calling the stream a breach of contract. Jungkook blinked. We are the contract, not when money's involved, Namjoon said. We were told to consult PR before going live. We didn't. We said what needed to be said, Jungkook snapped. We saved our sanity. Yoongi nodded. I agree, but Bang PD is being forced into meetings with shareholders, and we might be the scapegoats if things get ugly. The elevator doors opened, and Jimin stepped out with swollen eyes. Not from sleep, from something worse. He walked straight past them and into the meeting room without a word. Taehyung arrived next, wearing all white. Silent, barely glanced at anyone. Followed Jimin inside like a ghost drifting through a corridor. Hoseok and Jin were already seated when they entered. Everyone was unusually quiet, like soldiers waiting for a grenade to go off in the middle of the table. Finally, Bang Si-hyuk entered, and he didn't sit. He stood at the front of the room, tablet in hand, glasses low on his nose, face carved in stone. You think you're heroes, he said flatly. You think vulnerability buys you immunity from consequences. Sir, Namjoon started. Bang held up a hand. You don't understand the ripple you've caused, he said. Streaming platforms are questioning your reliability. Multiple sponsors have paused their agreements. And worst of all, he clicked his tablet. The screen on the wall lit up with a headline. Former staff member alleges mental manipulation inside BTS says silence was mandatory. A PDF opened. It was a scanned letter, anonymous, but detailed, frighteningly detailed. Jungkook leaned forward. Who wrote this? We don't know, Bang said. But the media does. And they're using your live stream as proof that dysfunction was baked into your process. That's not what we said, Jimin muttered. But that's what they heard, Bang replied. Your confession didn't control the narrative. It opened the door for others to write it for you. Hosak looked around the room. Then what do we do? Pretend none of it was real? No, Bang said. But you need to clarify it fast, or they'll tear you apart and call it justice. Yoongi stood. We didn't ask to be saints. We just wanted to stop bleeding in silence. You're idols, Bang said, voice sharper now. Not martyrs. You don't get to redefine the system without the system biting back. Taehyung, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. Let it bite. Everyone turned. He stood, eyes calm but blazing. Let it bite. Let them drag us. Let them scream. Because if we don't face the consequences of the silence we upheld, then we're no better than the machinery we claim to fight. Jungkook's heart pounded. Are you sure? Jin asked softly. Because once we go there, there's no coming back. This becomes bigger than us. Taehyung nodded. Then let it be. Bang stepped forward, setting the tablet on the table. You want to speak again? Then fine. But this time, you don't speak to the fans. He turned the screen. A single email was open. Subject: Invitation to appear. National News Interview. 60 Minutes Korea. Namjoon's eyes widened. They want us on camera? All of you, Bang said. Live, no edits, government-backed media. You'll be seen by more than just army. You'll be seen by the whole damn country. Silence again. And then Jungkook said it. We'll do it. Yoongi stared at him. Are you insane? We've already told the truth, Jungkook said. Let's finish what we started. Bang narrowed his eyes. You won't be protected. The questions will be brutal. Jimin looked up. Good, because so was our silence. 3 days later, they walked into the studio. Bright lights, national cameras. A host known for asking questions that made politicians sweat. No stylists. Just a black backdrop. 7 mics, 7 truths. The interviewer greeted them, professional but sharp. This will not be an easy conversation, she said. Are you prepared for that? Jungkook met her gaze. No, but we're here. The broadcast began, and within 20 minutes, the interviewer asked the question that shifted the tone of the entire country. To each of you, have you ever considered leaving the group because of emotional harm caused by another member? The room tensed. Camera zoomed. Jungkook looked at Taehyung. Then he said, quietly but firmly, yes. The nation held its breath. One by one, they answered. Yes, said Yoongi. Yes, whispered Jimin. Yes, said Namjoon, eyes closed. Many times, Jin admitted. More than I'd like to, said Hoseok. Taehyung's answer came last. I did leave, he said. Not physically, but emotionally, and it took everything in me to come back. The interviewer stared at them. Then why stay? Jungkook didn't hesitate. Because we were broken but we weren't finished. That night, the broadcast shattered ratings. Politicians quoted them in parliament. Mental health centers reported record spikes in youth seeking help. And the industry that had built them stage by stage, image by image, was finally being forced to listen, not to the music, but to the pain behind it, and the boys who refused to let it stay hidden any longer. 3 days after the national interview aired, the walls of the HYBE headquarters no longer echoed with rehearsals. They echoed with something else entirely. Whispers. Whispers in hallways, boardrooms, cafeterias. On every floor, the names of the 7 members were on every tongue, sometimes with reverence, sometimes with rage. The group's honesty had cracked open something deeper than a media cycle. They had torn open the machine from the inside. And now, the question wasn't whether they'd recover. It was whether they'd survive it. Jungkook sat alone in Studio 6, lights dimmed, eyes closed, headphones on, looping the same melody over and over again. It wasn't a beat. It wasn't a polished track. Just raw piano chords haunting, sparse, unresolved. A song that sounded like breath after crying. He couldn't stop hearing Taehyung's voice from the interview. I left emotionally. It rang in his chest like a warning and a promise all at once. The door creaked open behind him, and he didn't need to look. I thought I'd find you here, Jimin said, closing the door gently. Jungkook spoke without turning. I didn't expect that interview to hurt this much after the cameras turned off. Jimin walked over, slid down beside him on the studio floor, and looked up at the ceiling. You know what the crazy part is? I thought saying it all out loud would make it easier to breathe. Didn't work? Jungkook asked. I feel everything more now, Jimin whispered. Like I tore the bandage off and now I can see the wound for what it is. Silence stretched. Then Jungkook asked, do you regret doing it? Jimin shook his head. No, but I regret how long we waited. They sat in silence for a moment, the chords still looping in the background, soft and sorrowful. Jungkook leaned back against the wall. Yoongi says the press is still digging. There's talk that Dispatch is going to leak old footage from the Busan incident. They won't, Jimin said. Bang PD already made the call, legal's on it. Jungkook nodded but didn't look convinced. Still, they're not going to let us just disappear into healing, are they? No, Jimin said. But maybe we don't have to disappear. Maybe we document it. Jungkook turned to him. You mean? Jimin smiled faintly. If they're going to watch us anyway, let's show them what healing looks like. For real this time. Not curated, not through a lens of perfection. Just us. Jungkook considered it, then slowly nodded. We film the rebuild. Jimin stood. We tell them, this is what falling apart looked like. And now, this is what getting back up feels like. The next morning, all 7 members gathered again. This time not for a confrontation, not for confessions, but for something harder. Reconnection. Yoongi sat at the corner of the long meeting table, legs crossed, coffee in one hand. You're really serious about this rebuild, Doc? Namjoon nodded. We're calling it The Process. No script, no director. We shoot it ourselves. We edit it ourselves. We put out the pieces in the order they make sense to us, not to the market. Jin leaned forward, skeptical. You think fans want to watch us cry in meetings, eat ramen at 3 a.m., and sit in awkward therapy circles? They want the truth, Jungkook said. And that's all we have left. Taehyung hadn't said much yet. He sat near the window, eyes locked on the view of Seoul, fingers tapping silently against his thigh. What if it breaks us again? He finally asked, voice low. Then let it, Hoseok said. Let it break what needs to be broken, and let what's still real survive. Taehyung looked around at each of them. Then, with a slow breath, he nodded. We film everything, he said. And so it began. Camera 1. Jimin and Jungkook at vocal training. Barely speaking at first, the tension in their harmonies thicker than air. By the second hour, they were laughing through missed notes, letting memories rethread the space between them. Camera 2. Yoongi in the production booth, pulling up old demos no one had touched in years. Songs they abandoned during the Cold War era. Some sounded raw, some sounded like regrets. One of them, an unfinished track titled, We Were Here, made even him stop and stare at the screen for 10 full minutes. Camera 3. Taehyung alone in his apartment, playing piano to the night skyline, voice cracked, whispering lyrics under his breath that had never left his notes app. He recorded one take. No mic, no mix. Just pain. Camera 4. Namjoon and Jin walking along the Han River, talking about legacy, about what it meant to have been the voice of a generation and still not know how to speak for yourself. I used to think the mic made me strong, Namjoon admitted. Now I think it just kept me from hearing my own silence. I think the world forgot we're human, Jin said. But worse, I think we forgot. The footage was messy. Some scenes were too dark. Some audio distorted. One clip was interrupted by sirens. Another by a panic attack. They kept it all, because that was the point. They posted the first video without a teaser. No hype, just a simple caption. We're still figuring it out. Here's what that looks like. It trended in 20 minutes. Not because it was viral, but because it was real. The fans cried with them, laughed with them, ashed with them. Armies across the world began posting their own healing journeys, tagging it with The Process. A community of reconstruction began to form, and somewhere in the middle of all of it, between the tears and the rehearsals, the broken harmonies and the late-night confessions, something unthinkable happened. They began writing music again, not for the charts, not for the label, but for themselves. Taehyung and Jungkook wrote a chorus on the rooftop one night after a filming session. Just a single verse, hummed between wind gusts and healing silences. Jimin added harmonies the next day. Yoongi laid a beat beneath it that felt like rain hitting a window you forgot to close. They called it Still Here. It wasn't an anthem. It was a whisper, and when they played it during a surprise live stream, no fanfare, no announcement, every army listening cried. Because it wasn't perfect. It was honest. And maybe, after everything, the betrayals, the silence, the ruptures, the redemption, honesty was the only thing they ever really needed to sing. The camera didn't turn off this time. It stayed on. Because this was what healing sounded like.